long you been here?
How long have I been here? I've been in recovery resources since February the 1st, 2023.
How'd you get here?
I got here.
Because this is not your first time in recovery.
This isn't my first time in recovery. I am a retread. First time I was in recovery, it was 2019, November of 2019. And I went to rehab, of course, and stayed at Oxford for a while after that.
What's Oxford?
Oxford House, it's another sober living house. They're nationwide, I'm pretty sure. There's a lot of them. Here in Recovery Resources, we have mandatory house meetings that we have to go to 3 times a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then we also have 2 outside meetings, which are AA meetings, DAA meetings, or NA meetings that we are required to go to as well. And they're actually there are people over us that make sure that we go to these said outside meetings. But yeah, I was in Oxford. I moved out of Oxford. I thought I was good, and I very much was not good. I ended up with a one-day party that lasted for about 3 years, almost is what it felt like.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was when they say relapse hits you way harder than like the original active addiction, the relapse hits twice as hard, if not harder.
How do you mean?
It took me my drug of choice is alcohol, and it took me I started drinking when I was probably like 11, and it took me from then until I was 19 to become an everyday all day drinker. But in relapse, it took 1 day to become an everyday all day drinker. It just took that one drink to automatically jump right back into the routine of from the time I wake up till the time I go to sleep, I need a drink. I'm also an addict as well. Anything goes, you know. But yeah, I had relapsed. I was living on my own by myself in this little rinky-dink apartment. I was miserable, depressed. I didn't care if I was alive. I didn't care if I was dead. I was not good. Like, I have 4 children, and I might have been present, but I wasn't there. And I really just didn't care, not one bit. I knew something needed to change, and I woke up one morning. I didn't have a ride or a way to get anywhere. I woke up one morning, killed my last fifth of liquor I had, popped like 15 Benadryl, and I went walking to the hospital, which is, if you're familiar with Bristol, I lived near the Shell on the Volunteer Parkway, and I walked all the way to Bristol Regional Hospital, and it took me about 4 hours to get there, and told them I'm an alcoholic, I need help, I need y'all to detox me. So I did. I sat in the hospital and detoxed for about 5 days, and then I called all the rehabs around, and nobody had an opening or a bed for me to stay at while I was when I was decommissioned from the hospital. So I had already screwed off my landlord and stuff. I told him I'm never coming back and all that, and here I am finding out I don't have a bed to go to. So I lived on the street for a week until one of the rehabs I got a hold of had called me back and told me that there was a bed open for me. And I had $6 in my pocket, and it costed $6 for NetTrans to come pick me up and take me to Johnson City, where I went to rehab at. So like that right there, that's like a spiritual awakening to me, like a big moment right there. And I knew I was going to be looking for a sober living house to go to. And this blew my mind because back in 2019, when I was, the first time I was in recovery, I was there when Recovery Resources was starting up, like the group, the meetings and all that. I was there for it, you know, and I had never heard about them having houses open. and whatnot. And I was like dead set, like that's where I wanted to go when I got out. I didn't want to go to Oxford. I definitely didn't want to go to Freedom House. I wanted to get into recovery resources. So every single Thursday, I think, is when Tabitha goes and talks to him at the rehab. But every single Thursday, I was on it, just trying my best to get into recovery resources because I knew that's where I wanted to go. I know there's more structure that's, it's basically harder to relapse in a recovery resources house than it is in any of the other sober living houses. Relapses are going to happen no matter what, but the the stuff you have to do to be in recovery resources entails things that you would need to do to stay sober. I've really opened up a lot in recovery resources versus staying in other sober living houses, coming out my shell a lot more. There's a lot more opportunity for people to get vulnerable with your friend, like on our meeting we had earlier, our Wednesday night meeting. Like we got down and gritty tonight, and I like that. It helps me to understand that I'm not the only person that thinks this way or that way. A lot of people get to open up that way. I mean, I know that's how I feel, but a lot of other people have to feel that way too, I believe.